So after you cook with cast iron, how do you clean it and re-season it? You don't want to throw it in the dishwasher. That will take all of the seasoning out of it completely, and you'll have to start over, completely restoring the cast iron. You don't want to use dish soap because that soap will take all of the oils and the seasoning out of the cast iron also. So what do? Well, I use this chainmail. It's the best thing I've found for scrubbing cast iron. Picked it up on Amazon. I'll throw a link in the description if you're interested. But basically anything that's an abrasive that you can use to scrape out all of the food and scrub it clean, that's how you clean the cast iron. You just do it with water and something to scrub it with, and then you re-season it. So I put a towel down in the bottom of my sink so I don't scratch the sink, because this is a composite sink. But if you have a stainless steel sink or something, it's not going to hurt to just put the skillet or pot directly in the sink. But I start with just rinsing out as much of the food as I can. And then just take the chainmail and start scrubbing. Again, no soap at all, just an abrasive something. What I cooked in this earlier was fried potatoes. So that's mainly what you use the skillets for, is frying foods. So it'll take a little bit of scrubbing, but it comes clean pretty quick. So after you get the initial scrub on it, it got most of the food out, but I can still see a little bit down in here stuck to the side. So I'm just going to scrub it a little bit more. You can use your hand to feel around and see if you feel any more stuck on food on the sides or the bottom. Make sure you get this top lip, because when you wipe a spatula off, food will stick to this top lip here too. Now, I don't scrub the outsides of it for daily use. You know, after I cook with it, there's nothing on the outside that I need to worry about. If I have a little bit of food or something, I'll just rub it off or wipe it off. If it's stuck on, you can scrape it off. But I keep the outside just the way it was. So that got all the stuck on food out. It's still greasy on the inside of there, but it's supposed to be. That's the seasoning that keeps the food from sticking too bad to it. Now, you definitely don't want to use an abrasive scraper like this chainmail on a Teflon coated skillet. It'll take that finish right off of it. So I just use this on cast iron. So after you get all the food scraped out, now we need to dry it. So I'm just going to dry it with some paper towels, and then we'll set it on the stove and let it heat up, and that'll pull the moisture out of the inside of the pores of the cast iron. And after it's heated up and dried, then I'm going to coat it with oil and just let it cool off on its own. Then it's done. So I want to make sure it's dry, top and bottom. Just going to turn the heat on to a medium heat and let it heat that cast iron up a little bit. So to season cast iron, I use Crisco. It's just a vegetable-based shortening. You can use any kind of oil you want. I don't recommend using bacon grease to season it because that bacon grease will spoil over time as it sits. And I don't like to use like a liquid vegetable oil just because it tends to get sticky if it sits too long. So the Crisco works really well, any kind of a shortening, but you can use whatever food-based oil you want. You can check the skillet, see if it's hot. Just wipe a little bit in there. If it starts melting it, then you know it's hot, as long as all the water's evaporated off of it. But I'm just going to wipe this down and coat all of the inside surfaces. See how the shortening isn't melting here on the top edges? So that tells me that the upper half of this skillet isn't hot. So I need to let it sit on the stove a little bit more and heat up. As you wipe it with the paper towel and the shortening, you're going to pull some of the black that's still on the inside of the skillet up. But that's all right, we'll grab a fresh paper towel and wipe it some more. Now the skillet's starting to get hot, so I'm going to turn the heat down just a little bit. We don't need a high heat, just a kind of a low to a medium heat, because we don't want to actually start cooking that grease, and we don't want to burn our hand as we're seasoning the skillet. Again, make sure you get this top lip, because you've scrubbed on that, so you want to keep that edge seasoned also. The seasoning serves two purposes. It keeps it from rusting just from humidity or after you wash it, any water that's left, it'll keep the rust off of it, but it also creates a lining of oil on the skillet and on the iron that will basically make a non-stick surface as you build up those layers of seasoning. Let's see, I've still got some black on there, so I'm going to wipe it down again. So each time I dip in the Crisco, I always start with a fresh paper towel because I don't want that black down inside the shortening. There we go. Now it's coming off a lot cleaner. There's still a little bit of discoloration, and you'll always have that, but it's not going to hurt anything. So the skillet's actually, I can feel the heat coming through pretty high as I wipe it down with the paper towel. So I turn the heat off, and there's still that residual heat coming through. The skillet's still hot, so it's still heating up the metal. All the water's already evaporated off, but it's letting that oil cook into the pores of the iron. And that's all I'm going to do to it. I'm just going to let it sit here on the stove. As the stove cools down, the iron will cool down over the next half hour or so, 15-20 minutes, and what thin layer of shortening is left on there will solidify, and then the next time I need to cook with it, it'll have that non-stick seasoned surface. So that's how you wash and season cast iron.